Who's the white theater teacher what's gonna review this Shaft movie? Brandon? Damn right. Sorry, I couldn't resist. I actually feel really ashamed of that now. Like, deeply emotionally ashamed of what I just did. I'm so sorry. Let's pretend that didn't happen. Anyway, so welcome back to drive home retro reviews, I guess, because these aren't going to be up till well after I'm back in Tennessee, but still coming at you from smoky, hazy Alaska, because of course it's not summer in Alaska if there's not a damn forest fire. At least this time it was caused by lightning strikes and not some idiot camping, but that's neither here nor there. So let's talk about Shaft 2019, not to be confused with Shaft 2001 or Shaft 19, whenever the original came out. Sorry, showing my ignorance here. So this movie, I always say this movie's a little weird in its timeline. So for those who don't know, so Shaft was a kind of the king of the blaxploitation films back in the 70s, and the Black Private Dick, and all that, kind of the epitome of cool and street cool of that time period. Well, in 2001, they decided to not reboot the series, but to update the series with, of course, the only guy who could play John Shaft from that time, Samuel L. Jackson, who, and again, not a reboot, but a continuation, because they had the original actor Richard Roundtree in the film as Shaft's uncle, supposedly the original Shaft. All right. So that film happened, and that film was not memorable. I mean, you say Samuel L. Jackson as Shaft, and you're like, oh wow, this is going to be awesome. And it really didn't do much. Really didn't do much. And hence, no sequels, no spin-offs, no nothing, as you would expect from something like that. And now, here we are in 2019, we get another Shaft, and the reason I go through the whole history lesson is because it turns out that this actually is a direct sequel to the 2001 Shaft, which was itself a continuation of the original Shaft. So this is still the same timeline, still the same series of film. And what's so weird about this, and what I actually think works well for the film, what it does very well, and I think it was a very clever way to go about it, was where all of the Shafts up to this point were all very gritty, very real, very honest. And this film chooses to go the other way and be, for lack of better terminology, a comedy. It's not a parody, or at least not a direct parody. It has parody-like elements to it. They do a couple things which are that lean towards that parody classification, but don't ever really cross the line. For instance, there's this scene where Samuel L. Jackson is at the home of his son's mother, and he's talking to her through the door, and it's playing this very tender music, da 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 da, and Sam Jackson is giving this monologue, and he looks up, and this guy had come out one of the other doors and was looking at him. So the tender music dies down. Okay. They glare at each other. Sam Jackson shows him his gun. The guy goes back inside, and the music starts back up. Again, very parody, very, airplane type stuff. But the film is not making fun of Shaft. It's not, it's not saying, isn't this dumb, isn't this stupid? It's more just having fun with the concept. Again, whereas the other Shafts were all, again, very gritty. I've only seen bits and pieces of the original. I saw the 2001 version, but I've only seen bits and pieces of the original. And yeah, while that film, both of them trying to be very gritty, very honest, action films, but with all this political and racial undertones and everything, This film is more just having fun with the premise of, come watch these guys be badass. And watch Sam Jackson's nerdy kid, not relate to the older generation. I think that's what makes this a fun twist on the concept, is that I like that the setup is this millennial, this modern day young person, this early 20s kid reacting to the past idealism of masculinity. Even, it's hard for me, but I'm old, to think of 2001 as that long ago, but it was, So it's interesting to see kind of what the standard for masculinity now versus the standard of masculinity then, and what all has changed even within the relatively short time period. At least for me it feels relatively short. I know when you actually say 20 years, it's not, but it really does feel that way. So you have this geeky kid who's more PC, more technically minded, treat women well, all this stuff. Dealing with Sam Jackson and his fuck you, fuck this, beat the shit out of people, and that those two kind of generations playing off each other. And then later for the grand finale, they bring in Richard Roundtree again, to kind of have all three generations together. But he's just more there as, fan service, not to kind of comment on that generation, whereas this one is very much trying to comment on this generation. And I think 99% of it works. It was very funny. I've laughed more at this film than I have at the supposed comedies I've seen, this year. This film was incredibly funny. Sam Jackson has always just been, he has this perfect natural balance between a complete and total badass and a guy who has just enough of a sense of humor about himself, and about the situation that you can, even when the situation is goofy, he seems perfectly at home with it. I don't know the name of the young man playing John Shaft Jr., as it turns out John Shaft III, really. But he's very good. And he and Sam Jackson just have excellent chemistry. Very good comic back and forth. I think a comedy is good. I was talking about this with someone else earlier. I think a comedy is good, and a comedy team is good when it doesn't feel like they're just doing scripted bits. When it feels like their interaction, while scripted clearly, is natural. It actually is two people with a relationship talking, and it's not just a, batting the lines back and forth. And these two have excellent comic timing. Another great standout goes, and again, I don't know her name, so I'm very sorry, to the actor playing Junior's mother, who just is again, just like Sam Jackson, walking this great line between uber serious, old school, 70s badass and modern day kind of humor and, empowerment and all that. And she walks the fine line just so fucking well. This movie is so good that I honestly cannot think of a place it really falls down. I think the plot is a little convoluted. It starts out very simple with Shaft Jr.'s friend being killed, and him, he's a data analyst for the FBI, and he's trying to solve the case, and but it deals with, you know, drugs and street gangs, so he has to go to his estranged father, and, you know, the whole thing. So it starts out with a very simple premise, but it really, when you look back on it, the plot makes a lot of sense. But when you're kind of in the middle of it, the actual investigation is very convoluted, very all over the place. A villain we don't really see or know until the very end. So in that instance, it's a bit off. Other than that, the only other thing I didn't like is, of course, we had to have a puke joke in it. John Shaft Jr. had to throw up on people because we have to do that. We have to either have people throwing up on people, or we've got to see people in the bathroom, going to the bathroom. Both things I don't particularly like doing, really, and don't really like seeing. So, you know, that lost a point. But everything else, the humor is just really good. The characters are really well developed. There's a point in this, one of my favorite parts of this movie, because it's something I always wanted to do with a character, and they did it here, is one of the big jokes is John Shaft Jr., I'm just going to call him Jr., doesn't like guns. You know, he doesn't, oh, guns. Oh, no, I don't like guns. I don't like guns, you know. And his dad's like, you know, he's holding a shotgun really weird, you know. And his dad, and of course, you know, Sam Jackson is just like, oh, you know, because, you know, they're all about guns. And he's like, I don't like guns, I don't like guns. And they have this scene where he's on a date, and some hitmen come to get him. And his girlfriend is carrying a gun. So he says, give that to me. And he gets up, and he's just like a badass with it. You know, he's like taking him out, he's moving all smooth, and, you know, he hands it back to her. She said, you said you didn't like guns. I said, I didn't say I didn't know how to shoot them. It's just like, that, I loved that. That is like, I have always wanted to see a character do that. Just, oh, I don't like guns. So I didn't say I didn't know how to use it. You know? So, yeah, it's moments like that just are really fun and really clever. Again, I really like the whole concept of the modern version of masculinity commenting on, like, a generation ago's, you know, ideal of masculinity, and the older one, of course, making all the standard jokes about the modern one. Oh, you're not a man. You dress like a, you know, you're dressing in all these Gap clothes. You know, you gotta, you know, don't pussyfoot around when you're talking to women. Go right at it. And again, it's a fairly standard boilerplate thing of, you know, the two are going to balance each other out, and they're going to learn from each other and love one another and blah blah blah. But it surprises me that more people haven't talked about this movie. I've had no word on how this movie is done at the box office. The fact that it was only released a little while ago, and I think it's already kind of on its way out, kind of tells you. And I think that's a damn shame. I think this movie was very entertaining, a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. So you probably are going to be too late to catch it in the theater if you haven't, but I'd say rent it. You Redbox it. I'm again showing my age. I'm trying to say Netflix it, but I named everything else. Should just said go to Blockbuster and rent it. But yeah, I had a good time. It was a lot of fun. It was a fun movie. So, that's it for this one. So, final grade. Gotta do final grade. Even though I'm out of school, gotta do final grade. I'm going an A- on this one. A- for Shaft. Here's something I have a problem with. Much in the same way I had a problem with the Predator movies. If you're gonna do another one of these fucking things, name it something else. This is now the third fucking movie called Shaft. And again, it was like mind-blowing to me when I said, okay, this is a direct sequel to the one from 2001, which was also called Shaft. Name it something else. Shaft and Son, which sounds too much like Sanford and Son. I know why they didn't go with that one. You know, Shaft Legacy or something, but it's like, if you're gonna do this, name it something else, for God's sakes. You know, because now you gotta date all these. But aside from that annoyance, an A- for this one. I liked it. So, Hope you've all enjoyed this. This felt like this was a very rambling review. I didn't feel like I was really on point on this one. Not one of my better jobs, but it is the way it is. But still got a few weeks of summer left. A couple more movies I'm going to try to see. Doing my late uploads, so probably back at school by now. But anyway, until next time, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.